It's the Underdogs back with you for another action-packed episode. I'm Jordan Brenner, joined as always by my co-host Peter Keating. What's up, Peter?
Jordan, this is your week. This is we're talking golf, one of the few sports that gives you a really good chance to sound smart. So I think that's a good thing. I'm also looking forward to more underdogs in our hot dog eating contest this year with the astounding news that Joey Chestnut is going vegan. So it's an exciting week.
Yeah. So we're already preparing for our special hot dog episode, which has become a staple of this podcast.
Let's be frank. We know a lot.
Yes. But in the meantime, look, I really wanted to tell a story about a tropical bird that appeared at my daughter's softball practice, who we rescued and reunited with its owner. But I've been told I can't do that. So instead, we're going to shift a little later.
Jordan's been told by our remaining 6 listeners
Yeah.
who are around since his last story that we're not talking about the bird this week.
But we're going to shift. We'll do a little bit later in the show. We'll do some Stanley Cup Finals. But right now, it's U.S. Open week. And joining us from Pinehurst is Brody Miller, golf writer at The Athletic. Brody, welcome to this amazing show.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited. Ready to talk some golf.
Not as excited as Peter is because he follows golf really closely. Every Thursday, he's glued in to the next tournament. Right, Peter?
Well, now that I learned that golf tournaments start on Thursday, which I did as a result of our recording schedule, I'm tuning in earlier and enjoying it more. I'm watching double as much golf. They play big tournaments on Thursdays and Fridays, not just weekends.
All right, let's start off with the obvious, okay? This is the Underdogs podcast, but there is a massive overdog, the likes of which we haven't seen since prime Tiger Woods. That is Scottie Scheffler. Is there anything left to say about this guy, and how can you bet against him at this point?
Yeah, I think that's what makes this week more fascinating. It's like, one, we've reached the point we're talking about golf tournaments is pretty much who you taking except for Scottie. But also, I mean, he's the favorite every week, as he should be. That, like, obviously 1-5 of 8. Kind of fits everywhere, but what makes it even worse is this week it feels like as much of an advantage at a course as I can remember Scottie having really anywhere, which makes handicapping this on probably even harder because one, this is a place where the greens are so fast, the roll off is absurd on these domed turtleback greens. And in reality, you basically have like a 5 to 10 yard landing spot on these greens to land. Otherwise, it's going to just completely roll off. So one, he's the best ball striker we've seen in 15, 20 years. So that gives him an advantage. Two, he's a great driver. But three, yes, we talk about his putting, and that will be a question if he can putt well at those absurdly fast greens that are rolling at absurd numbers. But the other thing people forget is he's also one of the best short game players in the world, like incredibly short game. So it's actually like he might even be a bigger advantage here than I can think of any other places. Because there's another reason I'll also say that the more I get into this week, like every one of us golf writers talking, okay, is it going to be about the ball striking? Is it going to be about ball flight and all these things to be able to land it, vertically down these greens? Is it going to be about putting or is it going to be about short game? Because some people putt all these fairways. But the more I'm talking about this with people, the more I'm like, wait, I don't think we should hone in too much on any of these specific skill sets. We should hone in more on who's good at managing golf courses, managing emotions, managing, the boring parts of golf. And Scottie Scheffler is, maybe other than Brooks Koepka, like the toughest mental golfer on tour, the guy who does not make those mistakes when things get really, really hard, who always makes the smart, safe play and never chases, like, say, Rory might sometimes, or Jordan Spieth. That is his greatest strength, is he plays the smart number on a hole. So everything's telling me Scottie should win this by a few shots.
Well,
Jordan, it's like if you're going to pick one guy who could get arrested, come out and still play great, that's the guy. Oh wait, that already happened.
And the worst
I was going to say I'm good at managing Peter, much like Scottie is at managing golf courses, but I failed already.
But Jordan, are you good at managing those mini golf courses where the hole, the hole's like shaped like a volcano and you have to hit the ball uphill to get the ball in the hole? That's what this course is like. These turtleback domed courses. It's freaking convex. It's uphill to sink the. I mean,
it's a true test of golf, Peter. Donald Ross laughs in your face.
Donald Ross, yes.
But the fun part's going to be, honestly, that like it's going to be almost like links golf in a small way, just in the sense of there's no right way to play this course. I think what made Valhalla such a boring major in a lot of ways, besides the great finish, was there was one way to play that course. You knew distance was going to give you the advantage, and how good you're going to putt and all that. It became a putting contest. This week, you have some guys that are only putting off those fairways near the greens. You have some guys that are sticking with these fizzy little chips. It's truly down to preference, which makes also handicapping this probably a little tricky because you don't know how each guy's going to play, but it also means it's going to be an incredible viewing.
I just think it's amazing. First of all, I can't get myself to put money on anyone in a golf tournament who's only plus 280 to win. And top 5, you're not even getting even money, minus
Right.
140. Okay. So let's talk pivots and profits. This is the Underdog podcast after all. We've had to explain that to Peter when he picked Xander Schauffele to win the PGA, which he did. That doesn't count as a long shot pick. He
I
is arguably the
stipulated
second best
that. I mean,
golfer
we
in the
had
world.
other picks. That was the guy to win. When I said to win outright, because you got bets that are like to finish in the top 30, and Jordan was like, "That's what we do. We pick guys to win. That means win outright." Okay, so I guess I've been banned from picking Colin Morikawa. Let's talk about what Jordan would feel are true long shots, like from the depths.
No, hold on. Let's start with, there's 2 guys before we get into true long shots. Out in a normal year, we'd all be talking about Colin Morikawa and Xander Schauffele coming into this tournament, because both by normal standards are hot, consistent, winning. They're making all their cuts this season. They're consistently finishing top 10s, top 5s. So give me each of them heading into this week.
So Morikawa is tricky because he is in a lot of ways the perfect fit here. Like on paper, and I'm a data guy as much as anyone, like I think he should thrive here at ball striking, ball flight into these greens, and he's playing fantastic golf for 2 months. I think the thing that would hold me up from playing him at a number like 14-1 or 16-1 is purely that, and this won't be baked into data as much, as when courses get harder, Colin isn't the most trustworthy. When he is striking it well at benign conditions, he might be the second best in the world. But you look at, okay, he was in the Sunday group of both the Sunday final group of both the Masters and the PGA Championship, which is all the credit to him. He finished both of those about 6 or 7 back in both of those finals. He did a good job with Memorial of staying right in contention, but still, it's become a theme this year. So I don't love him at a place like this where it is going to be so mental, where it is going to get so hard. I don't love him entirely, even though on paper I totally understand it's the right pick. And forgive me, I'm very smart. Who was the second person?
Xander, he's been obviously just coming off the PGA win, 10 of his 13 starts inside the top 10. He's made the cut in all 13, only been outside the top 25 once. He's playing great.
Yeah, Xander is. And so, because the biggest thing about Xander, right, and it's almost like a boring thing to say, is he's the most all-around golfer on tour. He does not have a weakness. Maybe short game can be like, if it's on, he's great. If it's not, he takes a step back. But even that, he's gaining strokes in that. He's an elite putter, which is going to be huge here. Obviously, a great ball striker. In theory, I love him as a second or third top of the favorites. He seems like, I would argue there's even value at 11-1, because he's playing at a level of probably closer to, I don't know, 900-9-1 or something, but he's boring, that he's not as exciting. He's the defending champ, so no one wants to bet him. So yeah, I think Xander makes a lot of sense here. And he's a guy who never gets too high, gets too low, which I do think, I know it's like a boring take, but I think that's going to be so crucial this week.
Jordan, I think that Morikawa is the interesting case for all the reasons that we've just gone through. He is playing great. He leads the whole tour in drive accuracy, and I think that is one way to play this course. If you're an exceptionally accurate driver and you keep away from the crazy, weedy, sandy pine grass stuff that's all along the fairways, like avoiding that is one way to play this course. You mentioned almost as a joke Donald Ross, but on these turtleback dome-shaped courses, Morikawa has played very well. He was second last year at the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit. He was 6th at the Tour Championship, which was at Oak Hill. So he does have a good performance record on this kind of course. And what's fascinating is it is that mental twist, that adjustment at the end. Can he be more aggressive on the final day where he's been in contention as much as anyone? And that's an interesting case for an underdog for me, because if the performance is there, if it's a fit with the skills and with the course, but you have to make a kind of mental or even cognitive adjustment, like a change to your, no pun intended, approach, that's something somebody can do, right? You can't develop more, better long irons overnight, right? But
sure, you're not clutch until you are, right?
There's a mental approach that if he changes could actually vault him to another level. That's really fascinating. And he's plus 1,600, right? Which do we count that? I mean, in the Scheffler world, are those good? Is that value or not? That's also an interesting question.
He's literally the 4th favorite on the board after Scheffler, Schauffele, and Rory. So, you decide if picking one of the 4 The top 4 guys is a long shot pick.
I feel like
Yeah,
3 years ago,
and
60-1 was the favorite, and it's just wild how much these top guys are just separating themselves more and more.
All right, well, let's move off them and into the guys who are, say, plus 4,000 or more. Okay, so who's catching your eye this week with a longer shot chance at winning the whole thing?
Well, I think he's dropped in value a little bit. I think is Cam Smith still around 40-1. But I think maybe
I'm seeing
35
50 to
someplace.
1, 50 to 1
Okay.
at DraftKings.
Wow, I
Mhm.
might have got a bad number, friends. Cam Smith. Cam Smith's a guy who will always, I think you're going to get a little inflated odds on because he's not exactly a week-to-week guy. I do worry about how poorly he just played with Houston. Like, that's a major problem, but he's also a guy you can kind of throw stuff out with. He thrives at majors. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he's racked up more top 10s in majors than most guys outside of Xander and Scotty the last 3 or 4 years. But I go back to, I want a little bit of mental fortitude. I trust Cam Smith in that. He's the coolest Australian on earth. And he is the best short game player in the world overall, or at least most creative short game. He's a great putter. He's such incredible touch around the greens. It won him, the Open at St. Andrews 2 years ago. And he's a good ball striker. The question with him, of course, is always, is his driving going to, is he going to be able to hit a fairway? But again, like Peter was talking about, there you have choices. You don't have to. A lot of these guys are not pulling out driver a lot. Bryson said he's not pulling out driver as much as he would past years. So maybe Cam can play a little more conservative and trust his irons on some of these because that's going to be the wild card. But in terms of again, long shot's dramatic if you're calling Cam Smith a major winner a long shot, but still, I like him for the short game, the mental elements, and also just, he can handle it. So I think that's mine. Another one I throw out, though, is I love Ben On. I think it's 80, 90 to 1 at some places.
Okay.
He's a guy who I like the way he plays, ball flight, great driver of the golf ball. Short game is going to be the big question.
I'm seeing a lot of Minwoo Lee and Sepp Straka picks in various
Sepp Straka, my man
places.
Sepp Straka, Jordan, the Austrian guy. He's number 2 in the whole tour in drive accuracy, where Morikawa's won. He was 5th at the Schwab, 5th at the Memorial. And you talk about those turtleback humped courses. He was 14th at that PGA Tour Championship last year. So speaking only for myself, which has never made people a lot of money at golf, but I mean, Sepp Straka to win at plus 7,500. I don't know. That sounds kind of tasty. What do you think, Brody?
Oh, I actually sincerely love that. He's a guy who you like. It never feels fun to bet Sepp Straka. And sometimes, let's be honest, that's part of this sometimes. But no, absolutely. And the one thing with him has been kind of like, okay, his putting, the short game has always been a little questionable. It's been pretty nice the last few weeks, and he's on a heater, back-to-back T5s, the T8 at Wells Fargo. He's putting himself in contention a lot. I don't want to like correlate this too much when I drop Linksy and things, but he played really well at the Open Championship, which is something that I would, there's the creativity element of this week that I think you can't overestimate. I do think that's a really big part of it. So yeah, absolutely. I love Sepp Straka at that number.
And Minwoo Lee at plus 7,000 is getting a lot of buzz as well. And you like him as much as Straka? Is there anything there?
My thing with Minwoo Lee is more like he's so talented, he's so good. And by the way, there's going to come a moment where it clicks, and we're never going to get value on him again. I think he's that kind of talent. But I just don't. I mean, again, like I hate talking like in these intangibles when we're talking about something like this. But I don't really trust him. I don't really trust him when he plays a good round. How's he going to follow that up the next round? Things like that. He's the kind of guy who has an occasional tournament where he just loses like 3 strokes in approach. And that's happened multiple times this year where he's lost, 1 to 3 strokes at a tournament in approach. So I don't trust him is my thing. But yeah, if you're talking value and just pure talent, he's one of the top 20, I'd say top 20 talents in the field. So yeah, it's a fun play. I like that.
Part of the fun, speaking of fun plays, of betting golf is you get a 4-day sweat out of this if you make the right bet, right? So, a lot of the placement bets are good with that, right? If you're picking somebody top 10, top 20. Are there any you like, maybe, again, with plus odds here and there that might be interesting to follow, that someone you feel like, all right, he'll make the cut and he'll be in some sort of contention over the weekend, and I can follow this for 4 days, know something to root for?
What about Denny McCarthy 20 to 1? I'm not like, and I'm pulling this out of my behind. I don't really have one completely ready on this, but he is the best putter on tour. And again, we've talked quite a bit today about like, it's hard to figure out which things are going to be most important this week because of the way it plays, but he is the best putter on tour. He is, for the most part, a very accurate player. He's accurate off the tee, even though he doesn't have distance. And And I'm so fascinated by all the stuff Peter's dropping out with driving and whatnot, because the answer is I don't know how important driving is going to be, because because it might be everything this week. I mean, there's so much history of the last, I think I don't have it completely in front of me, but I do know the last 3 winners here were top 10 in driving accuracy. That is so important, but also with, okay, if you're a shorter driver, does that mean, because the rollouts are going to be crazy this week, you're going to see lengthy rollouts on these drives. Does that mean a shorter player can pull out driver more than Bryson can? There's so many little nuances of driving this week that makes it so hard. So maybe Denny McCarthy could actually make a lot of sense of this course because he's accurate and a great putter. I think that's a fun one at like top 20 or top 10. That could be a nice value.
Well, I was eyeing our guy Straka, top 20, get plus 230 odds, so not bad at all. And then Tyrrell Hatton's a little shorter, plus 190, but again, a top 20 finish for him certainly feels within the range of possibilities, right?
I love both of those. Straka, yeah, you guys, I hadn't really pitched him like around, because a lot of this room we're pitching guys around the room. I hadn't really thought of Straka, and I love that. So you guys have both sold me on that. And Hatton, yeah, he's very much a guy who, again, great putter, should do well here. And it's just, he's boring, but he's consistent. So you love him for a top 20, top 10. Absolutely.
It really is fun because in an environment where putting's going to be harder for everybody, it's like an age-old question. When part of the game's harder for everybody, does that help the players who are best at it because they have more of an edge? Or does it neutralize the edge that the people who are best at it have, and you just don't know till you see how it plays?
I had this I got a 30-minute discussion about this yesterday with somebody. I could not agree more. I think that is the hardest thing, because does that make Scotty even more of an advantage because to that exact thing? Does it take that completely out of it? And all of a sudden, the list of guys you could look at, like my bet on suggestion as a long shot, suddenly I like that even more if that's true. There's a bunch of guys I'm blanking on, but I do think that's why everything we're saying, I keep going back, and it makes it so hard for a show that gets into stats and data like we are right now. It makes it so hard, but I really think, who are the guys who play smart? Who are the guys that are not going to get like messed up by a double? Because that double is going to come, right? Which is why I don't love a Tom Kim this week. I don't love maybe a Minwoo in some ways. I don't love a Sahith. I don't love Sahith this week, even though he's so good. In some ways, he's a fit here, but I just don't love him in terms of handling the little tough parts. I want the boring guys to some extent this week. So yeah.
One last question, quick answer, and then we'll wrap it. Winning score this week, above or below par?
I'll go below. I do think we will see like some low scores. I just think we're going to see a whole lot of really high ones. I'll go winning scores 4 under, and like 3 guys are under par then,
I love it. All right. Well, there you have it, guys. Brody Miller, thank you so much for your time. Get those bets in before the tournament, which starts on what day, Peter?
It starts Thursday.
All right. And we will be back to talk some Stanley Cup Finals right after this. And we're back. And Peter, so are the Stanley Cup Finals come Thursday night as the scene shifts to Edmonton. Florida Panthers up 2-0. Aggregate goal total is what, 7-1? Is this thing over, Peter, or is there an underdog run left in the mighty?
I don't know,
Edmonton
Jordan.
Oilers?
I flipped a dime and it came up heads twice. Is the next flip guaranteed to be another head? Is the dime faulty? Is it over? Of course it's not over. These are 2 teams with evenly matched talents playing an unpredictable game where Florida's had the home ice, if you can call it ice. They play in the middle of a monsoon last game. Home ice advantage. The frustrating thing about this series so far, I am sorry if this is too meta, too didactic, too intellectual, too analytic, too everything that people who aren't hockey fight bullies will say that it is. It will be. But the point is, we're going to, all of us as fans, have so much invested in retroactively constructing reasons for outcomes that people are going to say, they're already saying, there are reasons for this. There are reasons. Florida's built to win. If you even listen to our friends at the Dan Le Batard Show, there are some people who last week started calling Connor McDavid overrated. So let's just go over a few basic facts, okay, Jordan? And then we can talk about whatever you want. Is Anton Lundell a Hall of Famer? Is Nico Mikola a Hall of Famer? Because these are the glue guys, the winners for the Panthers. And is Connor McDavid overrated? Here. I looked this up just so I would get the numbers right. I thought I had him off the top of my head. I was off by 1. Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Nikita Kucherov. Let's throw him in because we know he's a winner. 38 years they've combined in the NHL. How many cups have those 4 top shelf Hall of Famers won? The answer is 3. So the idea that McDavid has to hoist a cup by hoisting his whole team on his shoulders and single-handedly winning that cup is ridiculous, because nobody can. And, I think maybe we just ought to start giving a little more credit to the President's Trophy winner, because these series are crapshoots. And I hate to disappoint everybody, but yeah, the hot goalie wins. Unfortunately, you can't tell who the hot goalie is till after he shows the heat, and for another bunch of analytics reasons. So these are coin flips. Florida's won 2 in a row. That's my bottom line.
I mean, what you're saying reminds me a lot of what way I feel about baseball in the postseason at this point, where I just feel like, again, like we should appreciate who wins the regular season, because short series in baseball is even more random than hockey. I will say this, Peter, as a Rangers fan, I watched that series very closely against the Panthers, and I did feel like ultimately the Panthers were the better team. I felt like they were creating more and better opportunities. They were physically dominating the Rangers in spurts. So I don't buy that this is totally random. Like and I hate saying that, because I love the Rangers and they're great and they played really well. And I think, they certainly could have won, but I don't think that you get, a 7-1 aggregate goal total just out of pure randomness.
Okay, but you want health and depth, and you want to be able to hit the opponent, but not because those are necessarily keys to winning. You want those things so you can throw anything at an opponent, and what you find works, you keep throwing at them. If you can't hit, right, then you're in trouble. If your third and fourth lines suck, then you're in trouble. But guess what, Jordan? If you can't take possession of the puck, if you can't take away, or you can't play special teams, or you can't block shots, or your goalie can't stop shots, you would be in trouble too. So what do we see? We see a team that's very good at blocking shots, very good at taking possession with a really good goalie against a team with those same strengths. Then what's going to matter? What's going to matter is, then all of a sudden hits matter a lot. Then all of a sudden depth matters a lot. And that's how Florida beat the Rangers. So yes, they were the better team, but I do think that it's not because the things they're particularly good at are particularly important to winning overall, if that makes sense.
A little bit of sense. But back to my original question, though, about whether this thing's over already. I think the biggest indicator that's not is the betting line for the rest of the series. Now, Edmonton has to win 4 out of 5 games, which certainly seems like a Herculean task, right? But to win the championship, they're still plus 360, which is not super, long odds. Panthers are minus 450. There's that weird in between on that.
Yeah,
but
yeah, the VIG messes you up a little there. Yeah.
If the Oilers were really out of it, you'd be getting much better odds than plus 360 to win this thing. So I just thought that was interesting.
Well, look, overall, throughout history in all sports, teams that are down 3-0 lose the 4th game more often than they should statistically, because they snap, they break, right? If you're plus 200, as the Oilers are, to win game 3, there's no evidence on the betting lines that you're anywhere close to snapping, right? If you're
where are you seeing plus 200? I'm seeing minus 135
to win game 3.
Yeah,
the Oilers at home to win game 3.
Yeah.
All right, let's check that.
Money line minus 135.
You mean they're favored at home? Well, then
Yes.
You don't really need me to explain that they haven't snapped. They're favored at home in game 3.
Right.
I mean, that tells you what you need to know about whether it's over or not. It's certainly not over yet.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? No.
I want to say,
and not over.
Do you
know the number of people who miss that, who don't get that, who don't know what movie that line is from?
Well, if you want, look, you want to talk about an underdog. You know what today's academic underdog, Jordan, is? It's geography. You go to high schoolers and ask them where the Mississippi River is. I would take as an answer either Mississippi or the big line down the middle of the map, but you're not going to get those answers.
There's just a whole generation that hasn't been raised on watching Animal House.
Are we just like old men now? I mean,
learning that knowledge is good, as is the motto of Faber College. But
so would you get it if I said Oilers in 5?
But real quick, again, just to your McDavid point one more time, the nonsense coming out of South Florida on a particular podcast radio show, the idea of calling someone who's a superstar overrated is so frustrating to me. It's so 1990s sports talk radio. So shame on you, Greg Cote, and shame on you, Le Batard Show. Connor McDavid is a superstar. and you would love to have him on the Panthers.
They were winning 25 games a year before he showed up. They're winning 50 games a year now.
Pretty damn good. And you know what else is pretty damn good?
This show?
Show, baby.
Ah, I guessed right. Yes.
Oh, that's right.